Hey everybody, welcome to my next prediction video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the final round of AFC World Cup qualifying 2018. And it's funny because one of my subscribers, Diego Crew, asked me yesterday when I was going to make a video about it, and it's funny because I was thinking about making a video for the AFC predictions a few days ago, but hadn't really decided on when I would be making one and posting it. So, thanks for the little reminder, Diego. And here's the video. Okay, so Asia is usually the very first uh, continent, confederation in FIFA to wrap up its qualifying phase before all the other confederations. Usually, Asian qualifying, we know most of the teams who are going to be at the World Cup a full year in advance. So, we already have been narrowed down from 45 Asian teams to now only 12. And these 12 teams were just a few weeks ago placed into two groups of six. They changed the format this year from previous World Cup qualifying cycles. And in this video, I'm going to be making my picks on which four teams, two from each group, will qualify directly for the World Cup, as well as which two teams will finish runners up, in third place, and will play each other in a playoff to play the fourth placed CONCACAF team. So, without further ado, here we go. So, in Group A, we have Iran. Well, I pronounce it Iran. South Korea, Syria, China, Uzbekistan, and Qatar. And let me just say that this group is not easy to predict. We have four or five very good teams in here, with Syria being the odd one out. No disrespect to the Syrians. Um, hey, as somebody who is half Arab, I would love to see Syria make it to a World Cup or any Arab team. Uh, so only two teams can advance, and looking at all the games in this round robin group, where every team plays each other both home and away twice for a total of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 games, and the two with the highest points at the end qualified directly. So in this group, just going by running through it quickly, Syria is by far the weakest team. Uh, Qatar and China are up and coming Asian teams who have a lot of promising individual talent. Qatar is hosting the World Cup in 4 years after Russia in 2022. So qualifying for the Russian World Cup would be, a huge step forward in growth and development of the sport in Qatar in preparation for the World Cup that they're going to host. And they'll be desperately seeking to reach the penultimate tournament. Qatar are not a bad team. They have a lot of great individual talent, a lot of non-Qatari nationals that play for the side. I know Sebastian Soria is one of them. I don't remember the other names off the top of my head, but a lot of Hispanic players. China only qualified for one World Cup ever in 2002. Since then, they sort of faded off from the global game. They're not a powerhouse in Asia, despite having a population of over 1 billion people. But some people believe that China is a sleeping giant in world football, and that one day they could be a serious contender at the World Cup. Right now, China is sort of domestically building itself at the club level with successful clubs like Guangzhou Evergrande, coached by Marcello Lippi, who had a really great performance at the FIFA Club World Cup a couple of years ago. So China has a lot of promising potential in Asian football. Is it enough now for them to reach a World Cup in 2018 after 16 years in absence? In this group, I don't think so. I think that them and Qatar are pretty much at the same level right now. China had a very good Asian Cup last year in Australia, where they finished at the top of their group after a surprising 3 wins, but were ousted in the quarterfinals by the host nation. Um, so I don't think China is there quite yet to qualify. So that leads us to our other 3 teams in the group: Iran, Uzbekistan, and South Korea. And this is where it gets tricky because these same 3 teams were in the final round of Asian qualifying last World Cup in 2014, and it came down all the way until the last match day to determine who would qualify. And at that point, Iran qualified, followed by South Korea, who just barely finished ahead of Uzbekistan on goal difference. So only 2 of these 3 teams can qualify directly. Who do I think is going to get it? Going off of current form, I think South Korea will win this group and will qualify for the World Cup directly. Ever since the Asian Cup of last year, South Korea has been on the up, improving under their new German coach, Uli Stielka. They have conceded 0 goals in qualifying so far. That's right, 0 goals. Their defense is packed at the back. No doubt they will concede some goals because this is a very tough group being in the final round of Asian qualifying. But South Korea is one of those Asian teams that are always at the World Cup. They always qualify to the World Cup. I think since 1986, South Korea. So they have the talent, they have the fluidity of play, they're very fast. Uli Stielka is a very well respected German coach from Europe, and I think that they'll qualify. I expect them to get revenge against Iran from 2 defeats, both home and away, in the last World Cup cycle. I think they'll at least beat Iran at home, probably get a tie on the road, and I think they'll qualify for the World Cup. As far as who gets second place in this group, it's a tough one. Iran is still coached by Carlos Queiroz, who brought them to the World Cup last time around in Brazil. Uh, he did so after a very huge feud with the South Korean coach. Um, Iran and Uzbekistan have a really complicated rivalry with each other. They both beat each other on the road in 2012, 2013, and Iran just barely qualified ahead of Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is a team in Asia that has always had really promising talent, but have just been very unlucky not to have qualified for any World Cup in history. And the problem that I see with Iran is while Iran is a very difficult team to score on, they don't score many goals. When Iran wins its games, they tend to only score 1, 2-0, and Uzbekistan tend to be a more dynamic, have a more disruptive style of play. But the problem with Uzbekistan is that they are a little too inconsistent at times. As far as overall quality of the teams, I think Iran and Uzbekistan are actually equal to each other. So who's going to get second spot? My heart says Uzbekistan because I'm a little biased. It would be nice to see them, a new team at the World Cup for the first time, and they're very strong. But my head says Iran. Um, so I'm going I'm going to say Uzbekistan will get second, and they'll get revenge from 4 years ago, and they'll finally qualify for their first World Cup. So Group A, I'm going to say South Korea, Uzbekistan. Third place will be Iran. Fourth place, I'm going to say Qatar. Fifth place, I'm going to say China. And sixth place, I'm going to say Syria. Now, in this event, the third place team, Iran, would not be eliminated just yet. They would advance to a playoff against the other third place team of the group that I'm about to talk about. And let's get to that. In Group B, we have Australia, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Iraq, and Thailand. Another tough group. Australia is coming off of a very victorious Asian Cup last year, which they won at home. And in qualifying, they are in absolutely spectacular form. Australia is a powerhouse of Asian football. They usually score multiple goals in all of their games. They do have a problem sometimes with inconsistency on the road, but they're very difficult to beat at home. I expect Australia to qualify for the World Cup. Australia is another team that a lot of people within the football world talk about as being potentially one day one of the big players. I think Australia will qualify, and I think Australia will actually win this group quite comfortably. The maximum number of points a team can have is 30 from 10 games played twice each, I think. Yeah. So I think Australia will at least get 20 out of 30 points, at least 2/3, and they'll qualify as the first place team in this group. Now, second place, looking at all the other teams we have left: Japan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Iraq, and Thailand. Thailand deserves a great amount of respect and a pat on the back for getting this far for the first time ever in their history, but I don't think they have enough talent and enough fortitude and strength to come through this group. They're going to come in last. Iraq, Iraq is a funny case in world football. At the youth level, Iraq is a very, very good team. They finished in fourth place at the Under 20 World Cup in 2013. They consistently qualify to Olympics every 4 years. They're always one of the best sides in Asia at the youth level, but Iraq's problem has been an inability to translate success at the youth level to the senior squads. And 2014 qualifying was very disappointing for them, where they finished rock bottom in their group. And I don't see it being any different this time around. So, United Arab Emirates had a strong Asian Cup last year. They're a young team. I think they're too inexperienced to qualify. They have a great amount of individual talent, but they need better coaching. They need a better management staff. It's not very strong. So that leads Japan and Saudi Arabia. I gotta go with Japan. I actually think Japan will struggle in this group to qualify. They were not impressive last round, but if you think of Asian powerhouse, you think of Japan. Japan always qualifies to the World Cup. They have too much talent not to qualify. Their new coach is Vahid Halilhodzic, who took Algeria to the round of 16 and the World Cup in Brazil. He's a very good coach, and if he can perform well with a Northern African team, Algeria, when nobody expected him to do well at the World Cup, he can do wonders with Japan and the amount of talent that they have. And for third place, to go to the playoff to play against Iran, I'm going to say Saudi Arabia. I think Saudi Arabia right now are just a little bit better than the United Arab Emirates. Just slightly. Their coaching staff is much better. Their coach is Bert van Marwijk, the coach of the Netherlands in the final of the 2010 World Cup. Yeah, he's their coach now. And I think that looking at qualifying, Saudi Arabia in the previous round were very impressive, a very athletic team, very fast on the counterattack. And I think that they're just slightly better right now than the UAE. So in this group, I think Australia finishes first, Japan second, Saudi Arabia third, going to the playoff, United Arab Emirates fourth, Iraq fifth, Thailand sixth. So this wraps up my video. The four teams I think qualify directly to the World Cup are South Korea, Uzbekistan, Australia, and Japan. And the winner of the playoff between Iran and Saudi Arabia will play the fourth placed CONCACAF team. I'm not going to predict that international playoff, but I will say the winner of the third place playoff between Iran and Saudi Arabia will be Iran. And Iran will go to the playoff to play against the fourth place CONCACAF side. Thanks, like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts.